beans and rice and everything nice. All right. Yo, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. We appreciate the support. You know, with the first Borikemetics event. It's definitely an honor to be here in front of everybody, you know, considering the distance that I came. And the question that we're asking ourselves, which is an open question, what does it mean to be Bori? Now, a little bit about myself. I can't tell you what it means to be Boricua from the New Yorican perspective, or from the perspective of those on La Isla. I'm a Pittsburgh Rican. I'm born and raised black and gold, east side all day, every day. You know, I'm a rebel. Why am I a rebel? Well, my parents are Jibaros. My family's from Aluntas. And out of all the places they decided to go, they didn't go to New York. They didn't go to Chicago. They didn't go wherever. They went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Latino population of 2%. 2%.
Say you alone.
So when Brother Dennis added on about the struggle to define who we are and what we are, and it is a struggle. It's more than just rehashing or reciting what you've been told. It's taking that initiative, that step to go further into what you've been taught from every angle, whether it be the education system, whether it be the media outlets, from government and educational institutions like colleges, whether it be from your family. All of it should be internalized and analyzed because it is a struggle. I like to frame my experience as saying, I wasn't born with golden chocolates. I wasn't born into an environment where I was nurtured on what it meant to be Boricua from the door. My family's path was one of assimilation. My family came into Pittsburgh, one of the first Puerto Rican families into Pittsburgh in the late 1950s, and one of the only up until the last 10 years with the recent Latino migration. So for years, I've been called everything but Boricua. I've been called Arab. I've been called Italian. I've been called a Jew. I've been called this, that, and the third. And it wasn't until my own struggle to learn, to come into the knowledge of myself as a Boricua, to know and understand myself as a supreme representation of what it means to be Puerto Rican in the form of Sancocho. If you ask me what it means to be Boricua, Sancocho. Because as was previously stated before me, we are everything, but to many, we are nothing. When you think about what Sancocho is, it's a soup made from leftovers. It wasn't what was, for dinner. It was for dinner because that was all it was for dinner. So we represent a cross-section, an intersection of all people around the planet. Me personally, I didn't really get into my Boricua-ness until I got the knowledge of myself by way of the 5% Nation. Now, for those of you in New York, you may have heard about the 5% Nation, you may not have, and that's cool. But that was the outlet for me to get back to my roots and dig deeper into who I am. I learned that I was the original man, original, origin of all. Origin, mathematically understood, is the point on the Cartesian plane, which is a graph. And that origin is the center point between an axis, two axes, that's what you want to call it, the X and the Y. And from there, you can go anywhere on the graph. So from the Puerto Rican perspective, from the worldview, we can go anywhere amongst any people because we represent that point, that connection between all. And it needs to be understood, and it needs to be appreciated, but it needs to be done so from the honest will to learn and to discover it beyond what we've been fed. We've long been told cosmic triad, Spanish, African, Indian. And many of us choose different expressions of that, which is wonderful, but it doesn't stop there. Many of us have sangre indio. Doesn't mean it's so-called Taino, because when you study your history, you'll learn that many natives from the mainland were enslaved and brought into the Caribbean. So you might speak Spanish. It might be of, from a Puerto Rican perspective, Irish, African, Cherokee descent. But you are Boricua nonetheless. Okay? This is what Borikemetics represents, is that delving into what that means. Going deeper, going beyond the surface. Questioning why, who, what, where, when, why, and how did we come to be? Not just to rehash. Again, as was previously stated, we've been given ideas on nationalism and whatnot. All that needs to be understood within a context. All it needs to be appreciated for the struggles of those who came before us, but none of it can be taken with a grain of salt. And none of it should be accepted on face value. We represent an awakening. We represent a resurgence of consciousness amongst our people, not just in New York, not just on the island, but in the diaspora. I represent the diaspora. I represent the thousands, if not millions of Puerto Ricans out there who may have not have grown up, shamefully, not learned how to dance. I probably speak as much Spanish as Dora the Explorer. Like many Puerto Ricans of Hawaiian descent who went in the early 1900s to work in the sugarcane fields and the pineapple fields in Hawaii. Are they not Puerto Rican? Just because pineapples and spam is what's for dinner and not alcoholia? We are all Puerto Rican. We're all over the world. That diaspora. Again, as been stated, we have and come from many different backgrounds, many different faiths, many different walks of life. All the human families are represented in that essence of who we are. And to be able to explore it and go further and say, you know what, actually, yeah, I'm Puerto Rican, but I'm not of Spanish descent. I'm of German descent. I'm of Dutch and African descent. I'm of this and that. It's a lot more gray than the black and white, or the black, white, and whatever else, three-part series that we've been given about who we are. Because we are Sancocho. We are more than one ingredient. We are more than two ingredients. We are the beauty of all those ingredients put together and presented on the world plate to the people. But you can't appreciate Sancocho until you learn how to make it. And until you watch your abuelita actually make it, you won't know what goes into it. So until you can step back and look at yourself, not from the inside, but from the outside. Because when we say Borikemetics, I know many people not familiar with the terminology, but when you see on the end it says ethics and